Hello, everybody. It's Connie. The name of the channel is Gliding Through Blindness. And this is just going to be one of my rambling videos. I've been out and about a lot in my videos lately. I usually don't travel that much, but it seems like when it rains, it storms and whatnot. And I might even be going more places in the near future. But I am home at the moment, so I am outside. Um, I'm not on my swing because uh, Be My AI kept telling me the picture was overexposed. So I'm sitting at the picnic table in the shade where it says that my face is clear. So hopefully they're correct about that. I should mention my Patreon because I haven't mentioned that for a while, and I've gotten some new members lately, and I really thank all of you. And of course, now my nose is itching. Sorry about that. um, anyway, it's patreon.com/ gliding through blindness. And I really appreciate any support I can get because that's how I'm able to do special things. And this is kind of what I do now. So I really appreciate your financial support. But even if you can't afford anything in the way of financially, I just love if you could like and subscribe like the videos that I post. There's always a like button on the video itself on YouTube. It's even better than liking it on Facebook or whatever because um, the YouTube algorithm that shows it to more people goes by the number of likes and stuff that they actually get on the video itself. They're on YouTube, and I always love feedback and all that as well. So I really would love any comments you guys have, the good, bad, and the ugly. And speaking of good, bad, and ugly, that's kind of what I'm going to be talking about today. I'm going to be talking about two of my favorite subjects, Tesla and AI, kind of separately, but they're kind of both intertwined too, because Tesla has a lot to do with AI. But I'm going to discuss AI separately, like just some of the updates, because I have not given an update for a long time in what's been all going on and happening and just some of the highlights because there's always way more than I can cover. But I'm going to cover some of the downsides too, because I want to try to be as realistic as possible because that's how we can best prepare for these things. Um, so the boring tunnels are coming to Nashville, which is really exciting. That's one of um, Elon Musk's other companies. The boring company, because you bore into the ground and make these tunnels, and basically you can go very, very fast in the very quickly if you're using the tunnels, and then you can get from point A to point B very quickly because there's no traffic underground, etc. But I heard that they're going to Music City, which is where my brother lives, and as early as next year, we'll be able to hopefully start using them. And it will be from the airport, which is quite convenient, to downtown Music City, which is where he plays a lot. And so when I go and visit him, yeah, that will be fun to and it sounds like they're going to just use their regular Model Ys, which is the same car that they're using with their robotaxi. So I'm sure we'll find out more details as the time gets closer and whatnot. But that does sound like it will be a lot of fun, and not to mention, we'll clear traffic in the high traffic areas like in downtown Nashville. I heard it's pretty much impossible to find parking there, and that has been a problem for years already, and the city just keeps growing. So it's really going to be in an area where it's needed, and I think it's cool that Nashville saw the potential with using these boring tunnels and was one of the first to adopt this new technology. Um, And so then you can, if the robotaxi is there by then, you can just take a Tesla robotaxi right from wherever the tunnel drops you off. supposedly, and go to whatever exact spot you're wanting to get to. Um, and the robo taxis are going to San Francisco next, it sounds like, which Waymo has already been there for a while already. So it only makes sense that they're already used to autonomous vehicles there, and so that is a good next place. But they're being tested all over the place. Just today I heard they're in New York City and I think Chicago, and so they're getting it ready a lot of places so that whenever they decide to scale or whenever they decide to add a new city to their official fleet, it'll be very easy because they're already preparing the way now. But in San Francisco, I can go visit my niece anytime and check that out while I'm there. I should have brought water with me. Well, so we'll see. I might have to pause this and merge it to another video. Because um, Waymo in Austin, even though it's there, it's not the most ideal setup. So in San Francisco, I would get to choose a Waymo and compare and contrast it with Tesla's robotaxi, um, because the Waymo in Austin is hooked in with Uber. So you're more likely to get one if you choose the electric vehicle option, like the green option on your Uber, and then you can, um, if you turn off if you just leave that as your only option, you're going to get an electric vehicle, and it may or may not be a Waymo. But it's more likely to be one, but that still doesn't give you the true experience because you're not using the real Waymo app and whatnot. So I'm sure a lot of the features wouldn't be the same. So that's why I want to check out Waymo in a place where I'm guaranteed to get one, first of all, and I can actually use the Waymo app itself. Um, so, um, Another thing I was going to talk about having to do with Tesla is that this is just a personal preference thing, but I find it kind of frustrating or annoying when um, some of the content creators go on about like it's going to be worth 30 trillion someday. And I mean, they just obsess on that so much. Sometimes it seems like, to me anyway, I mean, they have their spreadsheets and stuff where they have it all worked out, and I mean, it is illogical. They're not just getting that number out of thin air at all. I mean, I'm perfectly willing to believe that it could do that, but I just don't think it's a number that should be touted around that much in public, because most people, when they hear numbers like that, just think you're crazy, and it just kind of ruins your credibility, even though you might be very credible, like I said, and even though those numbers might be accurate. I just think it kind of makes us sound greedy or something. Like I would be happy with a tenth of that. um, if it goes up to that much I mean, it's way more than now, but even more. But people just are not taking into consideration enough. And if you're going to look that far into the future, even though it might be relatively soon, like within the next 5 years or whatever, that still we need to think about what else might be coming down the pike 5 years from now. And the truth is that a lot of things are just going to be very uncertain in the economy. We just cannot predict, no matter how hard we try to prepare for all eventualities. But the eventuality that I don't think these people are thinking about enough is the one where the economy is in turmoil, and I mean, or we might just have a whole new economy, which then money might not even mean anything. So there's just so much to consider, which I've talked about some of that in other videos and whatnot. So I don't want to belabor the point here, but just um, that I think we don't necessarily have to talk about things that are that unknown. Even the optimists, I think, is going to take longer than what they thought at first, or what they kind of implied, just because when you're talking about building a brain that does anything or can learn to do anything, I think it's just a lot more complicated than uh, people might think on the surface. But I mean, they're pushing back the date on Optimus, which I'm perfectly happy with that. But so yeah, that's just why I think we should be a little more conservative when speaking about numbers, because we just don't know. And I mean, I'm not talking about black swan events like that are totally out of our control, like wars or something that we have no idea of now or whatever. I'm just more talking about things that seem pretty certain, like that when robots do come to fruition, they're going to totally change finances and jobs and labor and everything. So yeah, um, but like Ark Invest is one of the companies that talks about these really high numbers and such. Um, so yeah, that's my personal thought on it. But I mean, I do believe they put a lot of thought into how they're figuring that these robo taxis will just totally dominate the market and all that. But I mean, Elon could also decide that he's not going to, there's not really a reason to let people put their own cars into the system, which before, that just, people were almost just saying this is a certainty. And that's because Elon did say at one point, yes, we're going to let you put your own Tesla into the robotaxi fleet if you want. But I mean, we just don't know how long that might be the case. Or I mean, Tesla has changed its mind about some of the things they wanted to do, or some of the ways they wanted to go. Like they've recently canceled the Dojo chips thing, which I don't think is a big deal. I mean, you have to kind of adapt to new scenarios as things develop. That's why you don't want to be totally painted into a corner and only do that one thing. I mean, they used to just be a car company, and now they're totally getting away from cars and going more into the AI realm and robotics and whatnot. So I'm not saying things should not change. I'm just saying we should be prepared and not get all uh, too worked up or whatever, or sue the company or whatever if they decide not to go in a direction that they might have said that they were going to go in earlier. Um, and I mean, you just, I mean, Elon could get very involved in politics again. I mean, he is very like ADHD or whatever, and just likes to focus on different things at different times, depending on what captures his interest at any given moment. And I'm not saying some of these things aren't very important, because I think they are, but I'm just saying they all do have an effect on the company too. So there are just a lot of things we have to be um, cognizant of if we are an investor in that company. But I mean, this principle could apply to any company that you might be invested in, although I think it's a lot more um, uh, interesting, quote unquote, with someone like Elon at the helm, uh, because a lot of other companies, their CEO seems to be like a little bit more, what's the word, like stable. Or I mean, but I mean, sometimes you need some of these weird characteristics in order to have the visionary aspect of your personality too. I mean, so you can't just put somebody in a box and say they can only act this way and have this personality or whatever. Because sometimes what we might like about a personality also means they're going to have things we wouldn't necessarily like. But you have to take the person as a whole. And but I'm just saying, as far as like there could be an unforeseen world event, or yeah, like the CEO could not be as involved in the company, or just things like that to think about. And not just totally get your heart set on, oh, in this amount of time I'm going to be this wealthy or whatever. um and So also, it's just true that the timing is never what we expect. But I mean, it's good to prepare ourselves, but just know that it could be happen even sooner than we think, or it could happen even later. Um, and but people with shorter attention spans lose heart if things just don't happen on a certain timeline. Um, so we just kind of have to expect the unexpected and not think too much in specifics. Um, I mean, it's good to have a thorough understanding and explanation of where things are right now, but with the understanding that it could change later. And so, yeah, just to not make things seem too inevitable. But even if we put in our own numbers for some of these content creators and stuff, will say you can put in your own numbers and um, tell me what it you get, and it's still going to be a huge number or whatever. But I'm glad they give the flexibility for other people to put in their own numbers if they think that the numbers given are too high or too low or whatever for these different scenarios. But still, there has to be, we have to take into consideration that it might be just completely on a new, I mean, more than ever before. I mean, that hasn't really been a worry in the past that the entire way of doing money is going to change, but it is a thing to consider now, which is why that's kind of a different aspect than has been the case before when looking into the future, because things are changing at such a rapid rate now as compared to any other time. And so then to get into the um, AI field more specifically, the Grok 4 has recently come out, and GPT 5, and they're every time these are like they're all in fierce competition with each other, which is great for the consumer. But one week one of them might be ahead in the benchmarks, and the next week another one might be ahead. So they're all just really neck and neck. But they do they have models that specialize in different things, so they are different from one another. And some work better in some scenarios than others. So you just kind of have to get to know what yours does, or try all of them and see what might work best for a given situation. Um, but there's even open source models now, which is great. Like even OpenAI, who had kind of been a closed source thing for a while, they've made an open source model now too, which is good because their name is OpenAI, because that's what they started out as being, is they wanted to be more open source. So that means it's available to anyone, even if, like for free, basically. Um, so anyone will be able to have access to these things, even in like third world more countries, or whatever the right word is for that nowadays, like people in Africa or people that just don't have as much money right now. The floor is being raised so that everyone will be able to have a cell phone and have access to this, which is just wonderful. And of course, even though AI is great in some things, sometimes it still lacks, like hallucinates, and it doesn't have common sense sometimes. Uh, and that's just what we have to put up with now while it's being made and figured out, and how to train it and all that kind of thing. But it is just kind of funny that like some of my AI still doesn't know left from right sometimes, and it can't do things I really can't wait for it to be able to do, like to watch out for a certain thing and tell you when it sees like a door or an elevator without you having to constantly prompt it and stuff like that. But we're not quite there yet. Um, so yeah, it would just be good to have a realistic picture of what it can and can't do. But sometimes you just don't really know until you try it for yourself in the particular way that you're going to prompt it, or the particular thing that you might want it to do that might not have been tried yet or whatever. And like some people, I read an article that they were relying on it for medical transcription, and then they were what wrote woefully disappointed when it didn't transcribe things accurately. And of course, we all know that for medical transcription, you do have to be 100% accurate for something like that because people's health is on the line, or maybe even people's lives. So obviously, that's something that you need to double check. And if you don't double check it at this juncture, then it's on you. I mean, then you're liable for the changes, or for the inaccuracies, I should say. So we just have to be really clear about that. Just like there was recently a lawsuit getting back to Tesla. Well, this is really from 2018, back when um, the full self driving wasn't even a thing. I think it was just called autopilot back then. It just did very simple things, but they were sued, and just recently they had to pay a third of the claims, which I'm sure it will be voted down on appeal because like the guy was pushing down on the pedal while bending over and looking for his cell phone, um, while this thing was on autopilot. So now he's suing Tesla because he got into an accident and unfortunately somebody was killed. Um, and But yet, just because he was using autopilot, he thinks he should not be held responsible for the fact that he was not looking when it's supervised. Even now, it's still supervised. If people that have full self-driving on their Tesla, they still need to be looking at the screen at all times. So you can't really sue the company when you're looking away and accelerating the pedal and whatnot. So it's kind of ridiculous, some of these lawsuits and whatnot. Um, but yeah, so you just have to know what the AI is capable of at any given time. And uh, like people on the other extreme are annoying too, like the ones that say they can't trust it and never will be able to trust it. And so yeah, like I said, on one end people are saying they trust it for anything and someday it will know your every wish and fulfill it even before you know what it is yourself. And um, I think we just should focus on the here and now. I mean, we have to look a little ways into the future and go by what we see so far, and like Moore's law, and think ahead, like to the singularity, which is the point in time when nobody will really be able to predict what comes next because things will just be accelerating so quickly and self-improving upon itself and whatnot. But what we do know right now is that it still isn't perfect. So in our everyday lives from day to day, we have to focus on what it is can do for us in the moment, which is a lot. And that's another thing, that we get so used to these things so quickly. It's amazing how quickly we get spoiled by and become dependent on our technology. And we always want, like I was just even saying on this video, I can't wait till it can tell me in advance when it, I can just tell it what to be looking for, and then it will be looking and will tell me when it. I mean, last year that even would not have been a thing at all. That we nobody was even hoping for then because it was just too far out there. And so, but yeah, we do get used to these things and think about what's next and why is it messing up, and why did it tell me the wrong thing when we should just really still a marvel to think of what all it can do. Like doctors are becoming annoying because um, people are asking their chat GPT or their Grok or whatever about their diagnosis and getting all like they can say explain it to me like I'm a 10-year-old or whatever, or ask follow-up questions, which is something that a doctor doesn't always have time to answer all your questions in a way that you understand. So people are becoming a lot more knowledgeable about their own health care, which I think is a great thing. And that will just be true in all the different industries, but I'm sure it's quite annoying for the doctors to suddenly have all these patients that think they know better than he does. But in a way, they kind of do, because like these AIs can be caught up to the minute, or up to the on all the new tech and all the new research that's coming out, whereas it's impossible for an individual doctor to stay abreast of all that stuff. they have all they can do to just take care of their patients from day to day, and usually they have more patients than they should have. They're kind of overworked and overloaded and all that, much less to try to keep abreast of all of this new stuff that's happening. But an AI can take care of all that, and it's more patient and can explain things repeatedly or just whatever the person might need. And so, yeah, it's just really cool that um, just things we take for granted, but that we use it for every day. And millions of people use these things every day. Like some people are saying they don't even want GPT-5 because they've gotten attached to GPT-4 and don't want to like learn something new or whatever. And so they've OpenAI has kind of backtracked actually right now and letting people keep the older models if they want them. But um, we just have to um, get used to the fact of all this knowledge and all the different arenas being disseminated more widely all the time. And that will hopefully help to like hold these doctors more accountable. And it's just kind of like the printing press when it was first invented. People could read things for themselves and didn't just have to depend on their priest or their overlord to tell them the correct way to interpret these things. Um, and that I think that was a very good thing. I'm sure we would all agree we don't want to go back to the dark ages before the printing press. Um, and even though there are things like in people in authority that do know more than we do about, and we should respect that they've like gone to college and have the education that we might not have or whatever, but yet we'll still all learn more about these things, and that will makes it better for everybody. And so um, yeah, that was just the basic things that I think I wanted to um, cover this time. And yeah, I could do a whole series of videos about history too, and the way different inventions totally changed life as was known back then overnight, and it's even going to be happening faster now. But people were imprisoned, tortured, and executed for saying things differently than what they're like about astronomy or about how if whether the world revolved around the sun or the other way around, and just different thoughts were not accepted back then. You had to go with what you were given and not try to buck the system, so to speak. And so I'm glad that we have a lot more freedom than that now. And but soon the AIs will be way smarter than us, and that will be kind of a scary thing. But if we are on top of it now and try to think about how to make it still safe while taking advantage of what it can do much better than us. Like we can just say, give me a 1,000 word limerick about this topic, and in seconds it does it. I mean, that would take anybody else. Like you can say, make it sound like Stephen King or whatever, and it just knows that style or knows the genre or whatever. And I mean, a person could not do that. It would take them days or weeks or longer to come up with something like that, and we just totally take it for granted, like, yeah, of course I'll get this within 10 seconds or whatever. And just the way it can code for people now, like vibe coding, you can just tell it what you want. It makes like a video game for you. And coding is going to be a thing of the past. People, employers are already laying off many of their people that they don't need anymore, so it's already having an effect in the real world, because the AI is just more efficient, and people, they can employ fewer people that can do more, be more productive, because with the help of the AI. Um, so anyway, with that, I will say bye for now, and I hope you found this interesting. But let me know any other questions or ideas or thoughts you might have on this topic, because I do love to talk about it, and it will be one of the things that I think will be talked about more and more as things go on.